magical beings, and welcome to this 9th episode of my Karmatika Designs YouTube channel. If this is your first time in the channel, I'd like to give you a warm welcome. My name is Karina and I am the owner-creator of Karmatika Designs Boutique and YouTube channel. I'm super excited to have you here in the first place. But anyway, I have decided to prepare something quite special for you, given that we've already talked about sustainability and the basics of sewing. And I'm very excited because we're about to get very creative. And for this project, basically, we are going to be repurposing, upcycling an old t-shirt. This is an old long sleeve t-shirt of mine, and I basically wanted to use it to give you guys 3 ideas for projects on how to upcycle a shirt. But again, I have decided to split it into 3 parts, so stay tuned to keep on watching part 2 and part 3 of these series that I have prepared for you. And I hope you like this video. And also feel free to share with your friends and family so everybody can get making their very own and first upcycle projects. It's not only going to help the earth, it's also going to have you create something yourself, be creative for a while, and create something unique basically that you can either gift or sell or just for your own personal use. So if you're interested in all these things that I've talked about, don't hesitate to smash that subscribe button, give this video a like, follow me on Instagram. I tend to post lots of good stuff. Last month I actually even ran a giveaway, and so you don't want to miss out on that. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. Let's get making our very own upcycle scrunchies. Alright guys, I have my long sleeve shirt laying flat on the table, and like I said, for this video we are going to be making scrunchies. For the scrunchies, I like to work with the sleeve. You can use both sleeves if you'd like. I would like for you to save the torso for the next activities. I'm going to start by choosing one of the sleeves. Remember, for scrunchies we don't really need that much fabric, so just cut it off. You can cut off right on the seam, and notice that I am doing one seam at a time. I'm not cutting it both at the same time, just to get a better cut. Alright, and there we have it. I'll save the rest for later. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is cut down through the seam. So the very next thing I like to do is figure out somewhere in the middle. You can use your ruler. This is about 8 inches wide at the wrist, so I want to mark it right at 4. Make several markings because we are going to be cutting this down the middle, and that way it will be nice and even and it won't give you any problems when you start sewing it. Okay, I'm just evening it out by measuring out 4 inches out from the center, so that way we know it's even all the way. Nothing worse than not measuring right and just ruining the whole project. And I mean, after all, what we're trying to do is to reduce the textile waste going into the landfills. Measure twice, cut once, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. Alright, and I think I'm just going to leave it up to sort of like this point when the sleeve starts curving up. Alright, so then I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. You get the idea. You really just want to end up with some strips like this. I'm thinking that we can even get like 2 or 3 scrunchies out of these 2 pieces. Measure out 14 inches, and that's kind of what we're going to be working with for this particular scrunchie size. I mean, obviously you can make them in all sizes, but for this particular one, I think we're gonna do 14 inches. If we do 14 inches, this one is gonna leave us with 5.5, which means we'll be able to get 2 full-size scrunchies and 1 small one. Sound good? All right, now we're gonna move on to the next thing. All right, guys, so we're sitting here at the machine with our piece folded in half, wrong side facing together. Throw in a few pins if that makes you feel a little more safe, but given the nature of this fabric, it shouldn't shift a lot. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, we're just going to place it under the machine and we're going to stitch at 1/4. So once you have that, we're simply just going to go ahead and start stitching. And once you have it ready, just trim the threads. Take the pins off, and we're going to flip it inside out. This way we will have a nice seam going on. Once you have this, you're simply going to grab our piece of elastic. Alright, and so this piece of elastic is about 7.5 inches. But again, you can adjust it to whatever length your scrunchie will be. You know, keep in mind you can make these on basically any size. But just for this video's sake and for the amount of fabric on the sleeve that I had, this is what I'm going with. So the next thing we're going to do is simply put our elastic through the strip we just sewed. Just like this. Alright, we're going to put the edges or the tips together. You can overlap them just like this. And at this point you can throw a pin just to make it more secure. And we're just going to sew it. Alright, and so the very next thing will be to simply run a stitch in there. You can probably easily just tack it depending how much room you have going on, but I personally like to pivot it around. That way you get the most secure. Remove the pin if it's bothering you. Just go back and forth a few times just to be sure that it's not gonna open at all. Once you have that, it is time to test how well this is staying together. And then the very next thing will just simply be to put our edges together to close up the scrunchie. And then it will be all done. Alright, and so to put your ends together, you have your 2 ends like this. You're basically just going to line up the edges as such. You want to keep your pins handy because you are going to have to do a fair amount of pinning, and you're going to pin all the way around, and there's going to come a point where you can no longer keep going, and at that point is just going to be our stop point, and we're going to take the pins out and sew by hand whatever's left. At least that's how I do it. You can also sew it with a machine, but I find that I like how it turns out by sewing it by hand. As you can see, I'm already sort of reaching that point. It will no longer, hold on, maybe I can throw in one more before it absolutely doesn't want to cooperate with me. Alright, and just like that. And you're gonna end up with something like this. Alright, and now the very next thing, obviously, is going to be to run it under the machine. And we're going to stitch right at 1/4. And you just simply want to keep that raw edge lined with a 1/4 of an inch line.
sew it by hand. I mean, you could potentially just go like this and just throw like a whip stitch. I want to make it look more like the seam that we ran through. So to do that, I am simply going to sort of like go in, sew inside of it. Like this. Sort of trying to do like a catch stitch, but through the inside. So go inside of the seam and then inside the other seam and bring it out. As you can see, it doesn't have the, you can't really see the thread on top, and it pretty much blends with the rest of the seam that we did. So just keep on going with that. There's not much left, and I will meet you right back. Alright guys, and it looks like we are all done. I have a couple of samples here. As you can see on this one, I did the different kind of stitch where you can actually see the thread on the outside, and yeah, I mean they have pretty good stretch. I already tested them in my hair. And then this one, you can't really see the thread on the outside, so that is quite nice. So yeah, this is how you make scrunchies out of a sleeve of an old t-shirt. If you have any questions, as always, please let me know in the comments. As usual, let's connect. And this is basically all I have for you for this episode 9, part 1 of 3 ways of upcycling a t-shirt. Yeah, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, get in touch with me, follow me on Instagram, and also stay tuned for part 2 because we will be making a no-sew scarf out of that t-shirt. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in episode 10, part 2. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. See you next time.